Here is a comprehensive, highly detailed summary of Nan Huai-Chin's What the Diamond Sutra Says, meticulously expanded and structured to fill a 30-minute audiobook. It includes key philosophical concepts, illustrative stories, practical instructions, and the rich, conversational tone of the original lectures. Audiobook script, What the Diamond Sutra Says. Introduction, 5 minutes. Welcome. Over the next half hour, we're going to explore one of the most profound, influential, and subtly revolutionary texts in all of human wisdom, the Diamond Sutra. But we're not just reading the ancient words. We're going to unpack them through the eyes of a modern master, the Chinese teacher Nan Huai-Chin, in his wonderfully accessible book, The Diamond Sutra Says. Imagine a teaching so powerful, it's named after a diamond, the hardest, clearest, most brilliant substance known. A diamond can cut through any other material, and this sutra is the diamond that cuts through all illusion. It's a recording of a conversation between the Buddha and his foremost disciple, Subhuti, and for centuries it's been a cornerstone of Zen Buddhism, a guide for emperors and monks alike, and a source of inspiration for countless seekers. Nan Huai-Chin, a master of both Buddhist and Chinese classical studies, tells us that this sutra's greatest power is that it transcends all religion. It's not just about Buddhism, it's about a universal, profound wisdom he calls prajna. This isn't just book smarts, cleverness, or even logic. Prajna is the ultimate wisdom, the kind that allows you to see the true nature of reality, to understand the source of your own being, and to live a life of true, unshakable freedom and peace. It's the wisdom that cuts through suffering at its very root. He explains that prajna has 5 dimensions. First, there's real form prajna, which is the formless ground of being itself, the ultimate reality that words can't describe. Second is realm prajna, the state of consciousness or the space in which enlightenment expresses itself. Third is verbal prajna, the wisdom that uses words and stories skillfully to point towards the truth. Fourth is skillful means prajna, the ability to apply wisdom in practical, everyday situations to help others. And fifth is tritanu prajna, which refers to the natural outflowing of wisdom into compassionate action and good deeds. All of these are what the Diamond Sutra is really about. Over the next half hour, we're going to uncover the key to that freedom. We'll explore what it means to tame our wild minds, why letting go is the ultimate spiritual practice, and how we can find peace not in some distant heaven, but in the most ordinary moments of our everyday lives. So settle in, clear your mind, and let's begin this journey into the heart of the diamond. Part 1. The Ordinary Miracle and the Million-Dollar Question. 7 minutes. The sutra begins in the most unremarkable way imaginable. The ancient text, translated so beautifully by the great Kumarajiva, opens with the line, "Thus have I heard, once the Buddha was staying in the Jeta Grove, in the garden of the benefactor of orphans and the solitary, with a great assembly of 1,250 monks. When it was time for the meal, he put on his robe, took his bowl, and entered the great city of Shravasti to beg for food. After eating, he put away his robe and bowl, washed his feet, and sat down." Nan Huai-Chin points out the profound, almost shocking, lesson in this opening scene. Here is the enlightened one, the Buddha, the teacher of gods and humans, and he's not portrayed as a magical being floating above the ground, radiating light, or speaking in ancient, esoteric tongues. He's just a man, living an ordinary life with extraordinary awareness. He gets hungry. He puts on his robe, which was just a simple, patched-together garment, by the way. He walks into town. He stands silently at doors with his bowl. He asks for food, he eats, he washes his own dirty feet, and he sits down. This simple act of washing his feet is so important. It tells us that true spirituality isn't found in some far-off, mystical realm. It's right here, in the most mundane activities: eating, walking, washing, sitting. The miracle isn't levitation or magical powers. The miracle is the mindful, present awareness you bring to these simple acts. As Nan Huai-Chin says, the highest truth is found in the most ordinary things. The path to enlightenment begins with being fully present in your own life, in your own body, just as you are. This is the foundation. This is the first teaching. Don't look for the Buddha in the clouds. Look for him in the way you wash your dishes. He also tells a wonderful story about the garden itself. It was donated by a wealthy man named Anathapindika, whose name means one who feeds the orphans and the solitary. He wanted to buy a beautiful grove owned by Prince Jeta to build a monastery for the Buddha. The prince, not wanting to sell, jokingly said he would only sell if Anathapindika could cover the entire ground with gold coins. Anathapindika took him seriously and started doing just that. Prince Jeta was so moved by his sincerity that he said, "Keep your gold, let's build it together." And so it was called the Jeta Grove, Anathapindika's garden. This story itself is a teaching on the power of sincere devotion. So there the Buddha sits, perfectly at peace after his meal. But his disciple, the Venerable Subhuti, who was known for his deep understanding of emptiness, can't hold back. He sees this incredible state of calm and, in a moment of profound inspiration, seizes the moment to ask a question that has haunted seekers for all of human history. He gets up from his seat, bares his right shoulder as a sign of respect, kneels, touches his right knee to the ground, and with his palms pressed together, he says, "World-honored one, it is rare and wonderful how the Tathagata, another name for the Buddha, meaning that thus come one protects and cares for all bodhisattvas. But world-honored one, when a good man or woman seeks the path of supreme enlightenment, the highest, most fulfilled state of consciousness, how should their mind abide? How should they tame their mind? This is the central question of the entire Diamond Sutra. How do we find peace? How do we calm the chaos within? Our minds are like a storm of wild horses, thoughts of the past, worries about the future, judgments, desires, fears, and regrets, all galloping at once. We sit down to meditate, and instead of peace, we find a mental traffic jam. Subhuti is asking for us all. What's the secret? How do we stop this endless chattering and just be? Part 2. The vast vow and the paradox of self, 8 minutes. The Buddha, hearing this heartfelt question, first praises Subhuti. Well said, Subhuti. He acknowledges that yes, he does protect and care for all those on the path. Then he gives his first, most direct answer. He simply says, Subhuti, so you should tame your mind. Just like that, he's pointing to the very state Subhuti is in right at that moment. In the act of asking the question with such sincere, undivided focus, his mind was already present and tamed. There was no Subhuti, no question, no Buddha, just the pure, unified act of asking. The problem the Buddha implies is that we can't hold that state. We immediately get distracted by the anticipation of the answer. The moment of pure questioning is gone, replaced by the next thought. The answer was there in the question itself, but Subhuti missed it. This is a classic Zen teaching pointing directly at the mind's true nature, which is already peaceful and aware. Seeing that Subhuti is still confused, the Buddha, in his great compassion, gives a more detailed, step-by-step answer. He says the first step for any serious practitioner is to make a vast and all-encompassing it seems impossible. He says, all beings, whether born from eggs, like birds, from wombs, like humans and mammals, from moisture, like insects, or miraculously, like gods and celestials, whether they have physical form or are formless beings, whether they have thoughts or are in a state of no thought, or even beings beyond thought and no thought, I must lead them all to the final shore of peace, to nirvana. This vow is limitless. It's not just about saving the people you like. It's about a universal, all-inclusive compassion that leaves nothing out. It immediately forces you to think beyond your own small self, beyond your own problems and desires. It's an act of mental and spiritual generosity that expands your perspective to the size of the universe. This is the first step in taming the mind, redirecting its focus from me to all beings. But then comes the philosophical twist that is the absolute heart of the Diamond Sutra. After vowing to save them all, the Buddha says, and yet, after countless beings have been led to nirvana, not a single being has actually been saved. What? How can that be? It sounds like a complete contradiction, a logical fallacy. But Nan Huai-Chin explains that this is the deepest truth of non-duality. Why? Because if you, as a would-be savior, hold on to the idea that I am a great and compassionate person, and they are poor, suffering souls that I am rescuing, you are immediately trapped in the very thing that causes all suffering. The concept of a separate self. You have created a dualistic world where there is a self who saves and others who are saved. This duality, me versus them, good versus bad, savior versus sinner, is the root of all conflict, all pride, all attachment. True liberation, the Buddha teaches, begins when you act selflessly, without clinging to the identity of a doer or a receiver. You help because it's your nature, just like the sun shines, because it's nature without any thought of, I am a great illuminator. You do good, you help others, and then you let it go completely, without any self-pride, self-congratulation, or even memory. As the sutra famously states, if a bodhisattva clings to the idea of a self, a person, a being, or a soul, they are not a true bodhisattva. They are still caught in the dream. Part 3. The art of giving without attachment and seeing the real. 7 minutes. So, how do we practice this in our daily lives? The Buddha introduces the core practice of the entire sutra. Give without abiding in anything. When you give, whether it's money, time, a kind word, or even just your patient, undivided attention, do it without attaching to the act or the outcome. Don't give and then think, look how generous I am, and then expect something in return, even a thank you. Don't give and then secretly worry about whether they'll use your gift wisely. Do it because it's the right and compassionate thing to do, and then let it go completely, like a bird flying through the sky, without leaving a trace. This applies to absolutely everything. He says, practice charity without dwelling on forms. Don't give based on how it makes you look or feel. Give freely, without being caught up in the objects of the senses, what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or think. If you give with no attachment, the resulting peace and merit, the spiritual fruit of your action, is as vast and immeasurable as space itself. It's unlimited because it's not based on any limited concept. To illustrate this, Nan Huai-Chin tells the story of the great Indian Emperor Ashoka. In a past life, Ashoka was a little boy playing in the dirt. He saw the Buddha walking by. With a heart full of pure, innocent faith, he took a handful of sand and offered it to the Buddha as if it were the most precious gold. The Buddha calmly accepted this gift of sand. His disciples were puzzled, but the Buddha smiled and said, 100 years from now, due to this simple, selfless act of faith, this boy will be born as a great emperor who will rule all of India and spread my teachings. And that's exactly what happened. The story illustrates that the value of a gift is not in its material worth, but in the mind of the giver. It was an act of giving without dwelling on form. This leads to the most famous and powerful verse in the sutra. All with form is illusion. If you see all form as no form, you see the Tathagata. This is a bombshell. It means that if you're looking for a golden statue to light up and talk to you, or if you're seeing visions of angels or deities, you're missing the entire point. Your true self, your Buddha nature, is not a thing you can see. It's not a form. It's not a light show. It's the formless, aware space in which all forms, your thoughts, your body, the entire world appear and disappear like bubbles in a stream, like images on a screen. To see the real, you must learn to look past the forms. Nan Huai-Chin uses the analogy of the ocean and its waves. The waves are all different forms, big, small, choppy, smooth. But they are all just the ocean. If you focus only on the waves, you miss the ocean itself. In the same way, if you only focus on the forms of the world, you miss the formless reality. That is their true nature. This doesn't mean the world is an illusion to be ignored. It means we shouldn't mistake the temporary for the eternal. We enjoy the forms, the beauty of a sunset, the love of a child, the taste of good food, but we don't cling to them because we know they will change. The finger pointing at the moon is not the moon itself. The teaching, the scripture, the statue, these are just fingers. Don't confuse them with the moon of your own true nature. Part 4. The Parable of the Raft, the Truth of No Self and the Incomparable Mind. 10 minutes. Subhuti is now beginning to get it. The fog is clearing, but he's concerned for others. This teaching is so subtle, so radical, so contrary to our normal way of thinking. He asks the Buddha, in a future age, will anyone truly believe this? The Buddha reassures him. Yes, there will be those who, through countless lifetimes of cultivating goodness, humility, and inner stillness, will read these words and experience a sudden, profound, pure faith. This isn't blind belief. It's not about agreeing with a concept. It's a deep resonance that arises from within, a moment of inner clarity where the truth of no form and no self is intuitively grasped, not intellectually understood. This single moment of pure faith brings immeasurable merit, not because you're believing the right thing and some cosmic accountant is keeping score, but because in that moment you are free. You are momentarily free from the shackles of the self. In that instant, there is no one to believe and nothing to be believed, just pure, clear, undivided awareness. The Buddha then makes a startling confession. He turns the tables and asks Subhuti, "Do you think I, the Tathagata, ever attained some secret, special teaching?" Subhuti, now more confident, wisely says, "No, world-honored one. As I understand your teaching, there is no fixed doctrine, no concrete truth to be handed over." The Buddha agrees completely. There is no secret formula. Why? Because any truth that can be put into words is by definition limited. It's conditional, it's dependent on language, culture, and the listener's understanding. It can only ever be a pointer, a signpost. It is not the destination itself. He then gives the famous and essential parable of the raft. Imagine you come to a vast, dangerous river, a river of suffering and confusion. You need to get to the other side, the shore of peace and clarity. So you gather sticks and branches, and you painstakingly build a raft. You bind it together with vines, and you use it to paddle yourself across the raging waters. Finally, exhausted but relieved, you make it to the other shore. You are safe. You are free. Now, do you pick up that heavy, cumbersome raft and carry it on your head for the rest of your journey through the peaceful land? Of course not. That would be absurd. It would be a burden, not a help. You leave it behind at the water's edge. It was a tool, a means to an end, and its purpose is fulfilled. The Buddha says, "My teachings, the Dharma, are just like that raft. They are a skillful means, a tool to get you across the river of suffering. Once you've reached the other shore, the shore of peace, liberation, and true understanding, you don't need to carry the teachings around anymore. In fact, clinging to them would prevent you from walking freely. The Dharma should be let go of," he says with absolute finality. Let alone what is not Dharma. If even the true teaching must be released once its purpose is served, how much more so should we let go of our petty opinions, our dogmatic beliefs, our attachments to lesser things? This is why simply giving material wealth, even all the treasures in the universe, cannot compare to understanding and sharing even a small part of this liberating wisdom. One gives you temporary comfort. The other gives you the key to permanent freedom. The Buddha then gives a direct, practical method for meditation and self-inquiry, the famous teaching on the three minds. He asks Subhuti about the past, present, and future. Can you grasp the past? Think of your anger from yesterday. Where is it now? Can you hold it, point to it, show it to someone? Gone. Vanished. It's a memory, a shadow, a ghost, but the actual event itself is unattainable, unreachable. The past mind is unattainable. Can you grasp the future? Think of your worry about tomorrow. Where is it? It hasn't arrived. It exists only as a thought, a projection, in this present moment. You can't grasp something that hasn't happened. The future mind is unattainable. So we're left with the present. Surely we can grasp this very moment. But the very moment you try to catch it, to pin it down and say, "This is now," it has already slipped away into the past. It's trying to hold a river. The water is always flowing, always new, always changing. The present moment is infinitely fast, a razor's edge between past and future that you can never ever pin down. The present mind is unattainable. This is not a philosophy to be believed. It's a direct observation to be made. And truly seeing this, deeply seeing it, is incredibly liberating. When you see with absolute clarity that you cannot hold on to any thought, any feeling, any sensation, you finally, blessedly stop trying. You give up the exhausting, never-ending project of trying to control your mind. of trying to keep the good feelings and banish the bad. You realize that your mind is not a solid, permanent thing. It's a process, a flow, a river of consciousness. And your true nature is not the individual waves on that river. Your true nature is the vast, open, aware, unattainable space in which the entire river flows. You are the sky, not the clouds. Resting in that awareness, as that awareness is the ultimate peace, the taming Subhuti asked about so long ago. This is the direct realization of no self. It's not that you don't exist. It's that you thought you were a solid, independent, permanent self is actually just a collection of fleeting, unattainable moments. When you see this, who is left to suffer? Conclusion. The dream and the eternal practice. 3 minutes. As the long and profound conversation draws to a close, the Buddha gives his final, poetic summary, a beautiful and unforgettable encapsulation of all he has taught. He says, "Thus shall you think of all this fleeting world. Ka, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream. Ka, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud. A flickering lamp, a phantom and a dream. This is the ultimate teaching on impermanence and emptiness, the nature of all phenomena. Life is like a dream." But it's crucial to understand that this doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means it doesn't exist the way we mistakenly think it does. It's fleeting, it's changing, it's insubstantial, it's completely ungraspable. The suffering of samsara, the endless cycle of birth and death, comes entirely from our desperate, futile attempt to grab hold of the dream and make it permanent, to build a solid house on a passing cloud. When we stop grasping, the dream is no longer a source of suffering. It becomes what it always was, a beautiful, magical, ever-changing display. The sutra ends with the entire audience, monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, and even celestial beings, rejoicing and faithfully putting it into practice. They didn't just feel good about the talk. They didn't just take notes. They understood that the real point is not to admire the finger, but to look at the moon. It's to live this teaching, moment by moment. So, in the end, what is the Diamond Sutra saying to you, right now in your life? First, protect your thoughts. Be mindful of what you give your attention to. The quality of your mind is the quality of your life. This is the practice of good thoughts. Second, let go of the self. The ironclad idea of a permanent, independent me is the root of all our problems. Act selflessly, without concern for reward or recognition. Third, don't cling to anything. Not to possessions, not to people, not to ideas, not to your past, not to your future, and not even to your spiritual experiences. Let the mind flow freely, like a river, like the sky. And finally, see the dream for what it is. Enjoy the show of life with all its beauty and tragedy, its joys and sorrows, but don't be fooled by it. Don't be trapped by it. The real you is not just the character in the dream. The real you is the one who is dreaming. The screen on which the entire drama of life appears and disappears, the formless, unattainable, ever-present awareness. Nan Huai-Chin's great gift is to show us that this isn't just ancient philosophy for monks in faraway caves. It's a practical, powerful, and utterly essential guide for living in the modern world with less stress, more compassion, and a deep, unshakable, diamond-like peace. The teaching is simple, but the practice is a lifetime's work. It begins and ends with one thing, in this very moment right now. Can you let your mind be free? Can you just be here, without grasping, without fighting, without clinging? As the Buddha himself showed us at the very beginning, it's as simple as eating your meal, washing your feet, and sitting down. Thank you for listening, and may the diamond of wisdom illuminate your path.